Hi everyone, it's Kim. Thanks for joining me. Today we are going to look at days 7 through 13 in the 13 Days of Craftoween kit. Last time we looked at days 1 through 6, but let's take a look at what die sets were in the remaining days. And we'll start with day 7. I'm going to pull on my October 13th book where I kept each day separate so I could go through, and when I want to use these and mix and match, I can see what was available for each day. So day 6 was this little skeleton man. We'll start on day 7, which are the books plus the candles and a little banner that says Spellbound. And again, this is one that you can separate the books. You die cut the books separate. You can cut apart the candles so you can do some different things with it. And let me show you what I did with this one. Now, this one, I will admit, was a little, for whatever reason, more of a challenge for me. So what I have is probably more of a home decor piece, not really a card. And when I was trying to think of what to do with this, I ran into this eyeball at Dollar Tree in their Halloween section. I thought, oh, that gave me an idea for the books, that this big eyeball could be reading those books. So there's 2 styles of eyeballs at the Dollar Tree if you go to check them out. There's 2 eyeballs in a pack. There's quite a bit of dimension. You can maybe see that. I'm going to say about a ½ inch between the top of the acetate there and the back of the eyeball. So I knew I probably wouldn't be using it for a card. I needed to come up with something else. About the same time, I saw on YouTube that We Are Makers, I think is the name. It used to be We Are Memory Craft. Sorry, I can't think of the name of it here. But they have a punch to make a frame. And I thought, well, I have a die that makes the frame from Elizabeth Craft. So I've had this die for a long time. This is called Happy Frames. It's 1 die here. And so I can make this frame in whatever size I want, because all I do is die cut this piece out, and then I can cut down on this flat edge whatever length I want to make whatever size frame I want. But it does the same thing. So I thought, ooh, that would contain my eyeball perfectly. And then I can stack the books. So this time I made 4 books, stacked them up, cut out 2 sets of candles. One I used where it was together, and then for the second one, I just cut it apart. And then Spellbound, the banner that's included in the die set, is at the top of my frame. So I'll just put this on an easel, set it out for Halloween. Again, you could probably make it, if you have an eyeball die, you could make this flat, but it was perfect and gave me an idea of what to do with these books when I was roaming through the Dollar Tree. So that's day 7. Let's look at day 8 next. And that is the skeleton mug. And it had all these pieces inside the mug, but I separated them out. It was just so much in there. So I separated them out. First, there's marshmallows, and I did cut the marshmallows apart. We'll see it together as it die cuts, but I cut them apart. I'm going to assume this is a stirring stick, but you could use that like for a piece of candy. The ghost is, I'm going to guess, steam, but again, you could just use that as a ghost on its own. Then there's a little bat on like a little stick, and then this little sip tombstone was also in here, so I'm going to assume that's like maybe a cookie or something that you would put in your drink. So let's take a look at that one. I combined it with that French press from Hero Art. So we looked at this not too long ago, and I thought those worked together good. Here's the French press. That's from the coffee and croissant die from Hero Arts. And this time I did stuff everything into the top of that mug, that skull mug. And you could really think of all the different ways, different colors, different papers you might have to create that mug. The ghost I decided would be my steam from my coffee maker, and then Cheers to Spooky Sips. That is from the stamp set that was included in Craftoween. So again, not except for the skull head here, nothing too scary about that card. I think the French press takes a little of the scare out of there, but you could use whatever color combinations you want there for your skull and however you decorate it. So day 9, let's look at that one. It's this cool little monster. I love him or her. Comes with a piece of candy, a little pumpkin basket, the pitchfork, and what I really love is this one lens eyeglass. One eye, one lens eyeglass. I thought that was so neat to see such a unique pair of, I don't know if we could call it glasses or eyeglass. So I think on all my monsters, I've used that just because I thought that was so unique and so different. So this one, I decided this could be a he or a she. This is perfect for a child, maybe trick-or-treating, or for an adult who loves Halloween. But I basically did it in non-Halloween colors. Except for the black, there's really no orange or anything that screams Halloween on this one. So I've got my pink little pumpkin basket, my candy. He or she has already taken a nibble out of it. And then the trick or treat sentiment comes from the Better Press plate from Hero Arts. And this is called Spooky Season. So that is new this year. I have really gotten a lot of use out of this. So if you're into glimmer, this is something that you could glimmer as well. But there's my trick or treat banner. And I'm into the Better Press system, so I just Better Pressed mine out. And then I use the sequins that also come in this kit. And I just use the black ones for my little monster. So Halloween doesn't always have to be made to look spooky and dark, very light and bright with this little monster. Okay, so day 10 is the skull head flower. And this one was sort of a challenge for me too. I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do with the flower. And I thought, well, I'm not going to make it bright and cheerful. I'll make this one a little darker, but again, it's not really too scary with the smiling face and the flowers for the eyes. So I decided to combine this one with that skull hand that I absolutely love. This is from Spellbinders again. It's in the Booze Cocktail set. And so my skull hand is just holding on to that flower. And then the Boo to You is again from the letterpress set from Hero Arts. So Boo to You. This is a small slimline card, so that fit perfectly. And then I just added a couple of pearls that I colored with a marker. And that is my semi-scary flower, skull flower. One thing I did do, I had this sitting on my desk, and I thought I could add a hat to this if I wanted to give it a little different personality. So there is the witch hat, and that comes from this little skeleton here from day 6. So I wasn't going to mix and match quite yet with the pieces in the kit, but I couldn't resist adding that little skull hat. And there's a couple other hats if you didn't like the witch hat, but you wanted a hat. There's other choices in the Craftoween kit as well. Okay, so day 11 is this great haunted house, basic haunted house, 2 pieces. It could not get any easier. And so here is my haunted house that I put together. It also has this little bat in there. I will tell you, I kind of goofed up when I made this one, but that was okay because then it gave me another idea. So there's 2 layers, this top layer that cuts out the windows and the door, and then there's a base layer that is just a solid piece for the haunted house, which is my orange layer just to light up the windows and the door. And then I originally was going to make this yellow like this, but for whatever reason, I took my yellow piece of paper and I die cut out this top layer haunted house. So I had all the windows and the doors cut out. And I'm like, well, that's not going to do me any good to fill in. So I lined it with the orange instead, but I knew I would never have a yellow haunted house. What was I going to do with that piece that I cut out? So I thought, well, I'll make that like a drop shadow. So my moon is shining on my haunted house, and then I used up that piece that I cut in this top layer by accident, just moved it over a little bit, and so now I have a drop shadow on my haunted house. Since my bat is flying in the moonlight as well, I cut him out of yellow too and just backed him, so he had the same drop shadow. And then I decided, oh, I like that idea, so I was going to do that in my book, but this time I just cut out 2 pieces. So instead of cutting out 3, I cut out the top layer like normal, the base layer like normal, but I just shifted it over to one side a little bit, and so I can have a drop layer if I so choose on my haunted house. So again, just kind of taking an accident there, and what was I going to do with a yellow haunted house and using it in a different way. Then for my fence, that is from an old Tim Holtz die. This is called Village Graveyard. I already had these cut out and stuck in here. I had cut them out of foil and had put a little bit of black paint on them. So those work perfectly. And then I had the skull and the bone sitting on my desk, and I thought I'm going to stick them on just for decoration. So I did that. We'll take a look here in just a second of where those came from. And finally, that moon, I'm sure you can guess where that's from Tim's die, Moonlight, and this is the smaller die in the set. So there's a smaller one and a larger. This is the smaller one. But I was happy with how that came out. Pretty basic dies to cut out for that card. Okay, so let's go to day 12. And it's this cauldron with the witch's legs. There is the skull and the bone. I had an extra one. There they are that I used up on the haunted house. And then there's like a little, I don't know, stirring stick, or maybe you could use it as a piece of candy again. And then the bubbling or boiling water. And I love that because you can cut that out of whatever cardstock you want. So let's take a look at that. I did something a little different. Instead of putting my legs on the bottom of the cauldron, I know I have seen this a lot where the legs are sticking out from the top of the cauldron. Here's my boiling water or liquid in there, and I did put a couple of just clear drops. I had those clear Nouveau drops I just put on there just to make it look more like it's boiling. I'm not sure you can see that. I also used it to highlight the rim and the little shadow here on the pot. And then again, I decided to make it pink, maybe not quite so scary. It's the season of the witch. That comes from this letterpress plate. Again, I use this a lot for many of these cards. And then my web and my spider. I somehow wanted to incorporate this cat with something, but I just wasn't successful in doing that. But I thought the web and the spider were perfect to add. And then I had this web paper in my stash, so I thought that all went together good. And I love the hot pink for the witch's legs and for my sentiment. So again, pretty easy to put together, mix the pieces up. Just think you could use the cauldron on its own, the witch legs on its own. So you can definitely divvy up those pieces. So our final day, 13, is this coffin. And it has the crossbones, the skull, and another set of bones, plus this little hand. So I'm guessing these you could use on top for dimension, or I know they're probably sort of hard to see on that white background. Use them on their own. Let me show you what I did with this one, and I did have fun with this one. And it does emboss like a wood grain. Let me show you on this one. It does emboss that wood grain pattern on the top of the coffin. And for this one how I got it shiny is I had a piece of the packing tape over the paper, then I die cut it. So it kind of has some shine to it and gives it a little more dimension that's easier to see with that embossed wood grain pattern. So here's what I did with it. And I thought, I'm going to make it like something's coming out of there because I had all of these pieces. I could just offset the top of the coffin a little more. I have the head picking out, the hand, and then I took one of those extra bones that comes with this, took one of them, cut it in half, and then I matched like the joints together to make my knee and just tucked it in there. So if I pull this back, you can see there's no body in there. There's just a knee joint, a head, and then the hand on the outside of the um, coffin. And then my little mushrooms. This is something I had sitting on my desk because I had pulled it out thinking I'm going to use this for Halloween or fall cards because it has the pumpkins. This is from my stash. It's from Studio Light called Pumpkins and Mushrooms. And there's the little mushrooms. So I thought, I like those mushrooms. I've seen a lot of mushrooms in the Halloween decor this year. Perfect size to work with that coffin. So I just kind of decorated them. I think the black and the red colors do a lot for this card. 'Tis a season to be spooky. Once again, that's from that letterpress plate. So after I got done with all my 13 days, I worked on my book a little more, and then I decided I'm going to mix and match the pieces in here to make some other cards. I did, as you can see from last time, add a little more to this. I put some labels, so I decided I was going to put my numbers for days 1 to 3. Normally, I know you would look at it like this, and you would just put something on this front-facing tab, but I didn't want the back of my tabs to be plain. And so since this is for me, it's my book, I thought I'm going to put these days here 4 to 5. And then when I flip the page, 6 to 7. So that's how I set my book up. Obviously, I had some extra pages and I haven't labeled these yet back here. But what I decided to do was just to take some of these pieces that I could use for either other Halloween cards or just other cards in general, like this piece of pizza I could use for a number of things. The candles, the books could use for other things. These 2 hats definitely for other things. Piece of candy. So I kind of just group things together. I'll have to think of a label to put on this. I put all the skulls that were in this kit together. And then I still have a couple of extra pages, and I'll probably mix and match some of these different dice and just put them as samples here at the very end. But let me show you what I did. I did make a couple other cards, mixing and matching the various dice. So here's my first one with the monster and the haunted house. I decided instead of putting another moon behind the haunted house, I would make my card base the moon. So I just cut out a circle. I think this was 5 inches. Just kind of blended in some ink here on the bottom so they had something to kind of ground the pieces. There's my little monster. Again, I seem to be hung up making it in pink or with pink accessories. Love those glasses. This time I flipped through my book. What could I add? What could I add? I've got this hat, and that hat, let's look back where that is from. From the spider. And then the bow tie is from the crow. So I thought I'll add those to this one. And then I used the haunted house and the bat like normal to shadow or add some shadows to the moon part. I used the stencil or the mask from Tim Holtz. I can't think what this is called, and I have it covered up. But this is from Stampers Anonymous, so the moon mask. And I did use the larger stencil, and I used it on one side here. You can kind of see where I just took a light color and shaded that in, and then I just moved that mask over here and added a few more spots to make that my moon, and then I could just put it on a card base. Very simple. So let me turn this on the back. I just folded my piece of paper in half and put my circle die down and just cut out a portion of it. And then this way it would keep it together and I could just attach the full moon on top. And then it does sit up. So love that monster. Works perfectly with that haunted house. Oh, and then on the inside, I did put Ghoulish Greetings. This is a die that I've had for quite some time that I finally decided I better get out and use it. This is Creative Expressions Ghoulish Greetings, but love the font on that. And then I decided that crow, he looked like a pretty smart, educated crow. He would read these books. So I love these books. Again, you can cut those out separately, as we see here, and use it with or without the bookmark. So I cut out two of these. The bottom books are this book and the top book is this. So you can mix and match those, stack them up however you want. Made my crow. And then that little pumpkin here is, let's see, where's that pumpkin from? From The Ghost and the Cat. So day 4. And I used some sequins, and Wishing You a Mysterious Halloween Night again is from the stamp set. So I can mix quite a few different pieces up from the kit to make this one. Again, this one isn't like super scary or anything. So that will work for Halloween. And then finally, I love this little skeleton man, and he's from day 6. So I took him, and then I just took the cauldron from day 12. No witch legs on this. I did cut out the little boiling water pieces. The little stirring stick is actually from his broom, and you can move those arms around a little bit. And then Happy Halloween again is from the letterpress plate from Hero Arts. He was pretty simple to put together as well. And again, you could just continually mix and match all these pieces and come up with just a number of Halloween cards, whether they're spooky or not spooky or just maybe more fun. So much we can do with this kit. It's always fun to sort of get to the end, but at the same time, it's sort of sad to think, oh, I don't have any more days to open after I get through my 13 days. Now, if this is something that you like, maybe you're not into Halloween, but there are 2 more of these Advent type kits coming up. There's the Crafty Advent Calendar, and this has 24 days. So I'm going to save this for December. This is going to be the Advent kit that I start December 1st. But the dies in this traditionally have not been holiday dies. They've been year-round dies that we can use for any time. So if I take a look back here, this looks like it is a fish in a bowl. This to me looks like it is a horseshoe. That's a guess. And then over here, I think this is toast with jam on it. But you can see that there's flowers. So I'm going to guess, again, this is for year-round use, not holiday dies. And in addition to the dies, there are little bitty embossing folders and stamps, stencils, and it says embellishments on this. And in the past, they have always been the sequins. So I'm going to guess it'll be sequins again. 24 days. This I love because it's like a little present that you're opening every single day. So this is available now, the Crafty Advent Calendar. For those of you who like to stitch and like the stitching dies, there's a 12 Days of Stitchmas, and this was out last year as well. Last year it was all ornaments for like Christmas ornaments. I'm going to guess that that's what it is again this year because of the holiday pictures here. So this is 12 days. This to me looks like a little toy soldier. And then over here, I'm going to say a cupcake. I'm not sure if that's a specific sweet for the holidays or not, but there's 12 days of Stitchmas, so we can cut the dies out and stitch away. I am going to open this probably November 1st because they are stitching dies. It takes me a little longer to stitch and put these together than just a straight up die cut. So 2 more Advent type of kits coming out, Stitchmas and then the Crafty Advent Calendar. Both are available now through Spellbinders. So if you like opening something once a day, this might be right up your alley, but get them now before they sell out. And I'm sure there's more of these out than there were the Craftoween, but don't delay if this is something that you enjoy doing. And I thank you for joining me today while we took a look at the remaining days of the Craftoween kit. And I will see you again in a future video.